Hi guys! So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to realistically act a song or a monologue. You can use this video if you are doing a college audition, if you're auditioning for a musical in your school or in your community, and you can also use this if you're already in a show and playing a character. However, something to keep in mind, I will be giving specific tips to people who are applying to college, so if you're not, just disregard that part. And if you're new to my channel, my name is Madison. Hello. I make videos on prepping for college auditions, so definitely check those out if you haven't already. Let's get on to the video. So, the most important thing is to make this personalized to you. Now, if you're already in a play or musical and have your character, you're going to want to have it specific to your character, or if you're auditioning and singing the character song from the show that you're auditioning for, then you don't want to make it personalized. But other than that, it should be personalized to you, because especially for college auditions, they are trying to get to know you in so little time. And so the best way to let them get to know you is by showing yourself. So how do you do that? The first thing you want to do is read the play or know what's going on in the musical if it's a song. This way you can understand how the character feels in this moment and what they're going through. And once you have that, you want to find their objective, what they want by the end of this song or monologue. And then you're going to pretty much strip everything away so it's just the basic of their objective. So if it's like dead mom, her objective is to get her mom to listen to her, but that's probably, hopefully, something you can't relate to. So what's her objective is to be listened to and paid attention to. So that's much simpler and something you can have a much easier time at relating to. So then once you have that objective, you want to think of something in your life that you can relate to that. So like a common example I'll give is a lot of times people will relate to a time that they told the parents they wanted to do musical theater and their parents are like, no, you're not gonna make any money. People use that one, and if it's they wanna be paid attention to, maybe they wanna be paid attention to because, hey, I wanna do what I wanna do with my life, or like their goal is just to be seen. Now, even though you're stripping everything away from the objective, like I said, you still want to make it something kind of close to what it was before. So like what my dead mom example was, I want to be paid attention to. So then you figure out sometime in your life where you really want to be paid attention to. Don't just take an alternate meaning and be like, oh, well, this symbolizes this. So I really don't know, but just kind of take the essence of it and don't go too far off of what it is supposed to be meaning and their actual objective in the music. Now, if you look in the description, I actually have a document that you can use and you should use whenever you're going over a song or monologue for an audition or for a show. And I would recommend making a copy and then just making copies every time you want to use it. Okay, so now looking at that sheet that I told you about earlier, you're gonna wanna start filling out the information. So the first thing is, where are you? This is pretty simple. If in your scenario, you were having a conversation with your parents about how you wanna pursue musical theater, where did that happen? Were you on the porch? Were you outside? Were you in the kitchen? And you wanna make it as specific as possible, so you could say, oh, it was really cold, or the weather was really nice. Something to paint a picture so you can really get into that scenario. Next, who are you talking to? For this, you want to write the actual person you were having the conversation with, and it has to be specific. So if you're talking to your friend, that's not specific enough. You have to have a certain friend in mind. Something I would not do is talking to yourself. That doesn't always go very well. It's not always very clear. I have seen it done really well by my friend. She talked to her past self. So you could do that, but like try and stay away from it if you can. Next, what sparked this song or this monologue? Why are you going into this? So it can be something that they said to you, something that maybe they didn't say, maybe they're not paying attention to you. It could be something that they did, or again, something they didn't do. Whatever it is, write it down. Then you also want to write your objective. Now with your objective, you need the stakes to be high. If it's not important to you, then you're probably not going to work as hard to get it, because it doesn't really matter if you get it or not. But if you really want this, if you really want attention in this one time because you feel so lost and unheard, that's a pretty big objective because you really, really want this. That's something you're going to have to think about for yourself. Is this really something I really, really want? Or is this just something I kind of want? Because you want it to be a strong objective. And it should be, I want blank. I want to be paid attention to and I want to be believed. It shouldn't be something like, I want to be happy. It should be something that you're getting from the other person. So if you're getting a hug from them or you want them to believe in you, that's something they have to give to you. So then you have your ride-in thoughts, which is what you're saying to the other character that you're singing or acting to. And this is before your music starts. So it's either in your intro, or if you don't have an intro, it's just the moment before. So like if you're trying to convince your parents to let you do musical theater, maybe you can write down, this is my passion. I want to do something I love with my life. Something like that. Write down some things. And when you're doing it each time, it doesn't have to be like the same thing. It can kind of just be what you're thinking at that moment of like what you want to tell them before this song starts. So it's not like something you have to memorize and do the same thing each time. And you're not going to be saying this out loud. This is what's going to be going through your mind before, so you can really get into the scene and make it much more powerful. And something you do want to avoid is not like if you're thinking like, oh my God, this is what I love in my life. You're gonna be like, you're not gonna be doing that. Like be thinking this and you should have some emotion on your face naturally. Don't force anything because it just looks not great. So the next thing you're going to do is write out all of your lyrics to your song and leave a space between each line. And if it's a monologue, then leave a space between each sentence. And in between each line, so underneath each line or lyric, you're going to write how that connects to your story. So for example, if you're saying dead mom and your objective is to be seen by one of your parents for whatever reason, when she says, are you really in the ground? Clearly you're probably not going to be asking that because you're probably not singing to a dead person. So that question, are you really in the ground, could be, do you really not care about me? So that's what you have to do. You have to go through each line and change it so that it relates to your situation. And if you're doing this for a character, you want to write what it means to them, like why this is important. You want to write all of that underneath the lyrics or the monologue. Then once you've done all of that, you have the write out thoughts. So that is what you're thinking afterwards. Oh, thank you for listening to me, or I still feel like you're not listening to me and you're not hearing my side of the story. Whatever it is, whatever you're thinking after that, you want to write that down. And the same thing as the write-in thoughts. That's what you're going to be thinking. Either if there's music at the end where you're not singing, maybe you're holding a long note, or if there's no music at the end and it just stops, you can just kind of be in that character a little bit longer for a few more seconds, thinking the last thoughts, and then come out. By character, I mean your situation. Then you want to write if you won or not. Did they listen to you? Did you reach your objective? If you didn't win. You should try and win. That's what you want. This is your objective. You want to win. Did you do that or not? Were you convincing enough?
And you should write why or not, and not just simply yes or no.
Another thing you can use are tactics or action words. And I highly recommend looking at the Actors Thesaurus and getting that because it has so many action words, it's insane. And these are the tactics that you're going to use to convince the other person. You don't have to do this, but I strongly recommend you do this. So to just give you an understanding of what this is, it's pretty much if you're in an argument, say you want your mom to let you buy bubblegum. And you're first like, hey mom, can I buy bubblegum? And she says no. So then you're like pleading and you're like, please mom, I really want it. I was so good this week. If that doesn't work, then maybe you're like, well, I'll buy it with my own money. And then she's like, no, still no. So then you change your tactic again. And then maybe you're like, well, then I'll just get it from my friend. I don't know. When you are convincing somebody, most times you're going to have to change your tactic because they're not going to agree with you right away, which is why you have action verbs. And these are pretty much what you're doing to the other person. So to know if it works as an action verb, you need to fill in the blank, I blank you. So I criticize you or I charm you. Not like plead, because that doesn't really fit. I plead you. So what you want to do with these action words is go through whatever you're working on and break it up either into beats of where you think their tactic would change for what they're doing and what they want. So like maybe you think they're using this tactic at one part, but then they've used it so long and it's not working, so they want to change it to something else because they want to get their way. So find those parts. You can do it every few lines or so. If the music has a stylistic change, maybe that will change it. Find that, it's different for every piece, and put in your action words. And when you're going through the song, you're thinking about the other person and trying to use that tactic to get what you want from them. And a fun thing is to use like really weird ones, like ones that you wouldn't think to use, that you're like, that is like literally the last thing I would use. Sometimes doing that is fun, and sometimes you're surprised and you're like, wow, I didn't think that was a good idea, but I might use it. Okay, so when you're actually doing this song, you want to have that person, you want to know what they look like, what they're wearing, their facial features, do they have facial hair? Like, think about it and don't just be like, okay, there's a person right there. Do your best to visualize it as much as possible. Now, if it is a song, something you should do is go over the music by itself and don't try and do the acting and the singing together all at once with your specific stuff that you have written down for your circumstance, and work on the comments your vocal coach gives you, or record yourself singing and listen to it and write down things you want yourself to do, and get the music down and be comfortable with it. And at the same time, separately, you want to be going over your lyrics as a monologue and thinking about what this means to you in this circumstance as you're saying these words. Something you should also do is just kind of read over it a lot to really get it into your head of what this means to you. And then once you've done all that, you feel comfortable putting it together, put it together and do it all at once.
And if it's a monologue, you're going to perform the translated lines that you added, and then you could practice the actual text.
Something you should also think about is what your other is doing as you are singing or as you are talking to them. So maybe you're telling them, you know, what you feel, and they're rolling their eyes or they're walking away. Think about that. You can change it up each time, makes it more interesting. Think about that, and it really makes the stakes higher. Now, another thing, when you're going over your monologue in song, each time you do it, it's a different time. It's like the conversation is happening a different time. Because by doing this song and having a scenario, you're pretty much already reliving a scenario, and so it's going to be different. And so it should be different each time because you're reliving it different times. And like sometimes it's gonna mean more to you, and it's gonna be even stronger because you really want that thing more that day. Sometimes you might be really angry at that person, or you have a soft spot for them. It's always gonna be different, and you really don't wanna fall into the pattern of having the same intonation on lines again and again. And this happens, it really does. Sometimes you don't notice it, so you should film yourself and watch it back. This mostly relates to monologues, but sometimes it does relate to a song, but not as commonly. And if you find something you're like, ooh, I really like how I said that, doesn't mean you should do it every time, because that's forced and that's not acting, that's recreating. Something you also want to think about is having your character have a beginning, middle, and end in their song or monologue. And this is really important, especially for auditions when they only see a cut of your song or like a 1-minute monologue. It makes it so much more interesting and so much better when they have a clear beginning, middle, and end, because it's like a character arc and your character goes through a journey, and it really makes you look so much better as a performer if you are able to take your character through a journey in just 32 bars or 1 minute. So to clarify what I mean, maybe at the beginning, your character is hopeless and they don't feel like they can get what they want, but then in the middle, they decide, you know what? I am going to stand up for myself, and then at the end, they stand up for themselves and they're more confident. Something like that, thinking about overarching what's gonna change. Are they gonna become more confident? Whatever it is. And obviously it's gonna be more specific than that. That's just very general. Something else you need to do when the pianist is playing. If there is music playing, whether it's before you start singing or after you start singing or in the middle of your music, you need to be acting the entire time. If you hold out a note and then there are 4 more measures of music, you don't break character until a second after the music cuts off. And it's even better if it's a few seconds and you're thinking your right out thoughts and then you break character. And the same thing goes for when you're holding out a long note. You're not just holding out that note. Think about the imagery and everything that you're seeing and feeling and trying to express to this other person. Something else to think about throughout this is the imagery that you see. Focal points are another thing. Now, I used to have my focal points kind of to the side, but if you see, you can't see my entire face when I'm looking to the side, and they want to see all your emotions. So why, look to the side and make it so they can't see that? So talk to your other in front of you, and then have your imagery. So you want to have imagery if you can. Obviously not the whole song, but like in Times Are Hard for Dreamers, she talks about getting a key and like seeing the room in front of her. So you want to like imagine the room and like how that makes you feel, and see the room and see the tables and the chairs and your bed. Oh, and there's the kitchen. Really see it. And the more you can visualize it, the more the people who are watching you are going to be able to see it. And so your imagery can be kind of around you or a little bit above your other. Another thing is posture. Is your character very confident? How do they stand? Are they kind of timid and they have their shoulders rolled over? Are they nervous? Are they playing with their hands? Do they have big gestures because they're super excited? What is it, Something you can do is like just watch people and how their hands move when they talk and stuff like that. Like when I'm acting, I'm like, do I even talk with my hands? Like, I don't even know how to use my hands. What do my hands do? I don't know. And I'm like, well, I don't think I really gesticulate with my hands then. And then I'll like watch my videos when I'm editing and I'm like, wow, I do move my hands a lot. I didn't even notice. So either watching yourself back when you're just talking about something or looking at other people and how they move their hands when they talk, can really help you. So for this, with all the songs you're going to have in your audition book, you want to have done this for every song and every monologue, not just the ones that you're asked to sing, because if you're asked to sing something else, you want to look really good. You want to have it prepared and be ready. So go over it for all the songs you have in your book. All right, so that is how to act a song and a monologue realistically. I hope that you found this helpful and you learned something. And again, look in the description because I have a template for you. And if you did find this helpful, it would be awesome if you could like the video, and it really helps me out if you subscribe. And if you have any questions about this video or just the college audition process in general, leave them down below and have a wonderful day. Bye.